Hey, all, welcome to my channel. If you've been on my channel before, once a week I will try to do uh, a live stream since the beginning of the year. So I know I've done one earlier this week, but I figured let me do one right now. The fact is like what's happening with Twitter, basically. For those that don't know, of course, Elon Musk last year purchased Twitter, went from a public company to a private company, of course. As a result, when he bought out Twitter, he massive layoffs, of course, to reduce the massive headcounts to like cut costs, as well as he refused to pay, uh, for certain bills, essentially like leases, the leases that are up for some of the office spaces, as well as, cleaning crews and all that stuff, etc., and even lawyers' fees and all that stuff. Basically, what it comes down to, Musk is trying to take control of the company and like put his own branding on there, basically, which is the case what's going on right now, where he's now changing Twitter from a with the Twitter logo being no longer being Twitter and no longer the bird, now being, of course, the branded version of essentially the X logo. It's in lieu to what he had with I was going to say a company called, I guess it was called X back then as well too, which was prior to being purchased out and renaming it and rebranding it to PayPal. It was a payments company, basically, more than anything else. What PayPal is, with Venmos and such, and what he's trying to create a new financing, banking industry in ways, or that's what his hope was at that time, what X.com would be. Of course, that changed. Now, of course, he's got X. Took the Twitter handle, or X handle, if you want to call it, I don't know what you want to call it now, from someone, and basically, rather than giving him money, he basically gave them just merchandising and such, but took the username, essentially X, at X is what I should say. The guy has, of course, has a fascination. The guy has a fascination, of course, with the letter X, as you've seen. Even naming one of his kids with the letter X beginning, and as well as SpaceX, and now Tesla, having the first car. Not well, the Roadster was well before him, but it was the Model X, basically, was the coming out as well. Honestly, so um, guy loves the letter X for some reason or another. I'm not sure why. I guess it's because of the fact that, like, as you see here in the logo that I show, that's to my right, I guess, or to your left, depending how it is. Um, it's two lines converging, I guess, and I think he likes convergence or something like that. I don't know, honestly, but one of the things is again, he's trying to create something where it sounds like he's not trying to create a social network per se, but more of a platform to be an everything app, similar to what WeChat is in China. Basically, he's trying to create that ecosystem. Whether he can do it or not, I highly doubt it, because let's be blunt. I mean, Apple has tried, Google has tried, Facebook even tried. I mean, honestly, Facebook has now the messaging platform, but when they're doing Facebook payments, no one was really going into it. Amazon's trying to do it; it doesn't work entirely. Google's using Google Wallet. I mean, they're trying it, but it's not an everything app. It's like separate services, of course. So that's why I'm like trying to incorporate it all into one convergent. That convergent to one app is going to be very hard to do, honestly. The only reason why it's probably successful in China is because the fact is like, well, two factors. One, state sponsored, which you can't deny that, and two, um, it built enough of a loyalty that they could do that. Whereas here with Twitter, they didn't have as many users, and basically once he bought it, and all the publicity, the negative publicity that was coming about as a result of us, he was losing advertisers, losing users, forcing people to pay for their, um, forcing people to pay for their verification rather than vetting it out. And two, like, if you're not verified, then you know what, you have a limitation now. I mean, honestly, I think he's trying to kick people off of Twitter. I don't know why. It makes no sense. Honestly, Twitter was great at the point where, like, Twitter tried creating a messaging app as well too, one where you have the social media aspect, but the direct messaging aspect, and then like sort of like what Facebook Messenger is as well as WhatsApp. They were trying to go that route, but it was a big fail. I don't know why Musk thinks he can do it this time around. I'd be surprised if he is. And for those, I mean, I'm not gonna say I'm an Elon Musk hater, but sometimes you question him a little bit, like what's he doing? I mean, honestly, I loved what he was trying to do with SpaceX, which was great. Trying to basically use reusable rockets to the point of like reducing the cost and making it more commercialized versus government issued rockets, more than anything, or not government issued, but government controlled rockets or space travel for that matter. And then there's the other aspect of like Tesla. Now, the one thing is with Tesla, of course, going the electrical route. There's two things that you should know. First, of course, he is not the founder. Let's be blunt. He is not the founder of Tesla. He's trying to rewrite history, saying that he's the founder. When in reality, he's not. Just go look it up and you'll see. Basically, do your research. You'll know that he was not the founder. His justification of being a founder is like, well, I invested into it first, so I should be a founder. If that's the case, then Mark Anderson, and all the other guys, for Facebook, they should be founder of Facebook. Peter Thiel, founder of Facebook, because they were early investors at that point before they even, had access to it as such. So that's the thing is like, honestly, that's the wrong justification in that situation. The other aspect is like the Boring Company. Now that's another thing where like, all right, you're trying to basically dig tunnels to improve, I guess what you would say, transportation from one area to another, to using maglifts, but underneath. I'm not going to deny it's not bad, but at the same time, there's never been a determination of the long-term repercussions of boring underneath the earth, basically, to see what the long-term ramifications are. You're shifting enough dirt around that if you have enough of these underground tunnels, what happens to the crust? I don't know. That's just hypothetical. I mean, honestly, scientifically speaking, it should be okay, quite honestly. I mean, we have all these subways everywhere and all these underground tunnels and such anyway, so it shouldn't be a big issue. But then, of course, now he's trying to create this X.AI company, which he was an early investor to OpenAI, and now he's trying to create his own AI company because now fully well that like, hey, we need to control him or some aspect. And like, I could see what he's trying to do there. It makes sense to jump onto it and then apply that X.AI into SpaceX as well as into Tesla as well as other of the other companies, I guess, or properties. I don't know what it is because like honestly, eventually all of these stuffs, SpaceX, Tesla, Twitter, Boring, X.AI, and I think I might have one other. Basically, I don't remember what it was. It's all gonna have to fall under one big umbrella eventually. I have a feeling he's gonna call it Musk Inc. or something like that, or X Inc. or something. On my best bet. I think he's gonna try to create he's trying to create a large conglomerate that almost reminds me of what was that show cartoon? Fudge. I forgot. Gargoyles. That's what it was. It was a Disney old cartoon. I think in the early mid to 90s. I think I saw one season of it basically. And it was like interesting to the point like the antagonist on that at that time was a multi-billionaire, had multiple subsidiaries in all areas of aspects like biotech, mostly biotech, but also electrical tech itself as well, to technology and all aspects basically. And I think he's trying to do something in that nature basically. It seems like Musk is trying to go in that route of having his footprint on all these areas and putting it under an umbrella basically, almost similar to I guess what you could call GE. Sorry, I'm saying like what GE was at one point. Like they had the financial aspect of things, GE Finance, and then GE bulbs, of course, like GE electrical appliances, and then of course GE finance engines, with when it works with Boeing as well too. And GE medical devices and such. So I think he's trying to apply that in that nature as well too, where Apple was trying at one point thinking they could do that, with the Apple computers, the iPhones, electronic devices. They haven't gotten the Apple TV per se, but they have Apple TV, the stick basically. And then of course content as well too. And then Apple was thinking of jumping into the car game, but of course I don't. It's still too relatively early to say. They might come back and revisit it. I don't know. Similar to what Google's trying to do at one point or another, or what Alphabet is, and now what Meta's trying to do at this point as well too. Like the metaverse with other aspects as well too. So the question is like I don't know what he's going to try to do with X. Quite honestly, I mean we know what he's trying to do. The question is, will it be successful? And I think honestly, it's not. he can try all as he want, but it won't work. And I know got the CEO in place to do this, but the question is can she do this? Can this be executed correctly? I think quite a number of people have tried doing something of this nature of like trying to create multiple properties, but first creating an app and then building on that app basically with other aspects, making it a one be all end all app type of thing, like WeChat. But again, the only reason why WeChat became so successful is two factors. Again, it had a large popular base at that point, and it was also state sponsored. So I mean, unless the U.S. government backs it, which is not going to be the case, I highly doubt that's going to happen. If anything, I would not be surprised if Facebook trying to do something in that niche. I mean, honestly, Apple almost has it there. They're almost there. They have Apple Pay with the phone and iMessage and iCloud. It's just a matter of can they get like videos, like Apple Videos in place, like what YouTube is right now, as what TikTok is. Similarly, they have the Apple TV Plus, which is basically content-driven stuff as well too. I mean, honestly, just like what Amazon is. Amazon, of course, as well as Facebook, you saw that they tried to go into the foray of the devices. They failed miserably. Microsoft learned, you know what, we can try to the best of our ability, but you know what, mobile is out. But they trying to do with the gaming aspect of things, and they almost got it there. Of course, it's like now weaning the Xbox properties. Now that they bought out Activision, I think it's more of a case where now they're just going to be focusing on content in that aspect. But don't be surprised if Microsoft jumps into the foray of content as well too, like what Yahoo tried doing and that they could do. Microsoft could potentially create shows of that nature as well too, and to tie it into the Xbox platform. Quite honestly, I mean, if they do that, it'd be really impressive and surprising. If they could do that. The other thing is like, when it comes to devices, I mean, let's not forget their devices aren't so great, quite honestly. I mean, the only thing that so far that's been decent and good right now is their Surface tablets as well as their Surface laptops. They've been decently good enough at this point right now. I mean, not comparable to the Mac, but enough to the point where like it's working out really well, and they know how to work out with the Windows operating system. It's becoming a little bit more mainstream now, more than everything else. It's re-engaging back to its customers what it was back then of being really popular and more easy to use and such. And the other aspect of like, adopting open source and putting it into play at that point as well. Like WSL, that was a game changer in the Windows environment. I think surprisingly enough, I was a Mac person, and when I saw WSL, I'm like, oh my goodness. The question is like with Microsoft, with Teams, I think they got to work that thing out at that point as well too. Teams is good, but Teams is good for the perspective of the enterprise aspect of things, the commercial aspect of things. Honestly, if they focus on the consumer side with actually Skype and GroupMe, when they bought it out, they screwed it up, but they can refix it. I mean, look what they did with Azure. Look what they did with Office 365. Look at what they did with Windows. They re-engaged with that. All they got to do is focus a little bit more onto Skype, gain that popularity again. Honestly, I could see Skype becoming the new WhatsApp at this point as well too. It's just a matter of how you validate that. Right now, back in the days with Skype, you can create usernames left and right very easily without a verification, and then people could just randomly like message you out of the blue. And also the fact is like, you could have communities and groups and such, similar to what Telegram is. I think if they focus on that a little bit more, Skype could gain the popularity that it once had before Microsoft bought it out. And honestly, they can still use Skype, have the client itself work really well to the point where like just using what the backend infrastructure that Teams is using. It's going to be no different at that point, honestly. The only difference between Teams and Skype, Teams built out specifically for work. You have, those channels and such. Whereas with Skype, you can contain those groups, those channels, basically, and have, like those channels as what WhatsApp and Telegram are doing right now, broadcasting stuff and like, posting stuff at that point, or creating these large groups at that point as well too. But with the groups also having the ability to like do large video conferencing. I mean, right now, WhatsApp doesn't have that large capabilities, similar to what iMessage is. And the fact is like, let's not forget, Skype does work on almost all operating systems, except for Linux, of course. But once they could get that up and running, like, hey, it's great at that point, honestly. And that's the thing is like, with X, it's hard to determine how X is gonna do that because like right now you're just posting stuff. It's just like really posting for a news feed. How you communicate with others, it's a different story. There's got to be a separate sort of entity app at that point to do that at that point. And I think that's similar to what G Plus or Google Plus was trying to do at that point, where you had Google Plus, you can post, but then you could also post videos onto YouTube, and then also message via Hangouts. Of course, they separate, and then there was the Google Plus Messenger, which they screwed up. I don't know why they created Messenger plus Hangouts. If they had incorporated Hangouts into Google Plus, I think it would have worked out really well at that point as well too. And then eventually, once they did do that, but then of course Google Hangouts became so bloated that it was hard to maintain at that point. Like I said, if Microsoft could do that with Skype, with what they're trying to do, don't be surprised if they jump into content. I mean, they're already jumping into content with the video games. Don't be surprised if they jump into content with movies and TV shows, just the way Apple and Amazon are doing as well too. And once they do that, I think YouTube's gonna have to. I mean, not YouTube. Well, yeah, YouTube. In this case, Google will have to jump in at that point. I mean, they were doing that at one point with YouTube Premium with some of the content, and some of them were pretty good. Let's not forget Cobra Kai. That was one big thing, and they had it. And I mean, granted, they weren't making as much money, but it was popular enough to the point where like Netflix picked it up at that point as well too. So who knows? Maybe X they tried doing that as well too. Honestly, like maybe X does create a content platform as well too, like to compete with the TikToks and the YouTubes out there as well too. If they can do that, it'd be really impressive. Honestly, let's not forget Twitter did own Vine at one point, and Vine was the TikTok before TikTok became TikTok. Honestly, and Vine was great, but it was like 6 to 7 seconds. I mean, right now they could expand on it. I mean, Twitter screwed up on that, unfortunately. I mean, because they were cost cutting, but it was ahead of its game and it was gaining the popularity. If they just worked on it a little bit more and were patient, it probably would be where TikTok is now at this point. And they probably could expand on it to the point where like they probably would never have needed to sell out Twitter at that point. And the fact is, like, let's not forget, Dorsey creating Card or Square or Cash now, I guess, whatever it's called now, with also, Blue Sky. It's interesting. I think like Musk seeing the way where the Cash App or Square is. I think he wants X to be that at this point. And like I don't think we're gonna see a buyout of Cash, or App, or Square, whatever it is now. But don't be surprised him trying to looking at potentially buying out another company that's in the fintech, or like Stripe maybe, or something like that. I would not be surprised if Stripe is bought out, honestly, or any one of those others that can work into that payments platform in that perspective, as well as Twilio too. The integration of Twilio with Stripe into one big platform makes absolute sense, honestly. But I don't know. That's just my thoughts and my humble opinion, honestly. With that, I'll leave it at that. I'm already coming up at the 20-minute mark. I'll leave it at that. If you enjoy my content, enjoy my videos, enjoy my channel, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And for those that have subscribed, I thank you for subscribing. And again, of course, leave a comment in the comment section once this becomes static. Of course, when it was live, I don't see the live messages. But once it becomes static and becomes permanent, please leave a comment in the comment section. I love to read the comments and any feedbacks that were provided. That'd be great. Granted, I also have to get notified and see them. I think I've seen a few comments which I actually never got a chance to go back and look at, so I've got to go back and look at them at that point as well too. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered.